Well, it's 11:32 a.m. right in the studios of West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and live on WADR.org. Now, the rapid growth and use of artificial intelligence or AI is changing journalism, the media, and press freedom in big ways. While the principles of free, independent, and pluralistic media remain crucial, AI's impact on information gathering, processing, and dissemination is profound, presenting both innovative opportunities and serious challenges. The UN Global Digital Compact says it's important to deal with problems caused by technology while still protecting people's privacy and freedom of expression. May 3 acts as a reminder to governments of the need to respect their commitment to press freedom. It is also a day of reflection among media professionals about issues of press freedom and professional ethics. Welcome to this special broadcast of Citizens Hour in commemoration of World Press Freedom Day 2025. I am Abdullahi Hassan, your host, and I've been joined by my colleague, Augustine Kole. Good morning, Augustine.
Well, good morning to you, Abdullahi Hassan, and good morning to the loving people, especially journalists across the world. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, and also with me in the studio is Mr. Tijansi, a veteran journalist and founder of Edgecom Journalism Institute here in Dakar. He's a mentor, I must say. Good morning and good to have you join us, sir.
Good morning, Abdullah, and good morning to our listeners.
Very well. Now, World Press Freedom Day 2025 focuses on how AI affects press freedom, the free flow of information and media independence, and the global goal of ensuring access to information, access to information and protecting fundamental freedoms. This will be the fulcrum of our discussion with our in-house studio guest, Mr. Tijansi, and of course our online guests across countries in the sub-region. I know we'll be joined shortly by presidents of press associations in Liberia and the Gambia, but I'm being told right now that we have online Julius Kanuba, president of the Press Union of Liberia, PUL, and Ahmed Saeed Nasrallah, president of Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. If you can all hear me, welcome to this special broadcast. Nasrallah, Saeed.
Thank you for having us on the program today.
Very well. Thank you, Ahmed, for making time. Dominic Lodzi is a National Organizing Secretary of Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, and Editor-in-Chief of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Good morning, Dominic. Good to have you join us. Okay, I understand is that two journalists have network issues. Well, as soon as they join, we'll all bring them on board. But once again, to you, our esteemed listener out there, thank you very much for making time to join this special broadcast. Well, Mr. Tijansi, allow me to build a base for our discussion before we start. Now, a report by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, revealed that between 2006 and 2024, we are looking at over 20 years here, over 1,700 journalists have been killed around the world, and around 85% of these cases did not make it to the court. The report further revealed that for the second consecutive year in 2024, conflict zones have proven dangerous for journalists and media workers. At least 68 journalists lost their lives in the line of duty. The alarming rate of the incident saw the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on November 1, 2024 tweeted, and I quote, that worldwide an estimated 9 out of 10 murders of journalists go unpunished. Impunity breeds further violence. He therefore called on governments to take urgent steps to protect journalists, investigate crimes against them, and prosecute perpetrators everywhere. Well, the UN-Chief, in commemorating this year's World Press Freedom Day, has this message.
In a world plagued by conflict and division, World Press Freedom Day highlights a fundamental truth. Freedom for people depends on freedom of the press. Free and independent journalism is an essential public good. It's the backbone of accountability, justice, equality, and human rights. Journalists everywhere must be able to report freely and without fear or favor. When journalists are unable to work, we all lose. Tragically, this is becoming more difficult every year and more dangerous. Journalists face attacks, detention, censorship, intimidation, violence, and even death simply for doing their jobs. We are seeing a sharp rise in the number of journalists killed in conflict areas, particularly in Gaza. And now, as this year's theme reminds us, press freedom faces an unprecedented threat. Artificial intelligence can support freedom of expression or stifle it. Biased algorithms, outright lies, and hate speech are landmines on the information superhighway. Accurate, verifiable, fact-based information is the best tool to diffuse them. The Global Digital Compact adopted last year includes concrete steps to strengthen international cooperation to promote information integrity, tolerance, and respect in the digital space. AI must be shaped in a way that is consistent with human rights and puts facts first. And the global principles for information integrity I launched last year are supporting and informing this work as we push for a more humane information ecosystem. On this World Press Freedom Day, let's commit to make this a reality and safeguard press freedom and the press everywhere.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres speaking there in commemoration of this year's World Press Freedom Day. And I was told that our partner stations from the Gambia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria, including Numi FM North Bank region in the Gambia, have joined. Thank you all for joining us. Mr. Tijansi, welcome to this special broadcast. Journalism for you is a passion. That's the key word. I remember each time we talk, you always will remind me of that. You need passion to drive journalism. And for someone like you, it has been passion that got you this far. But let's look at the evolution of the media space, at least in the last decade.
Well, I mean, the last decade or the last 2 decades, I mean, there have been tremendous changes that we have all experienced. And I mean, to put it very short, one of the fundamental changes is that possibility for almost everyone to broadcast news. What we are doing here now, we have thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, I don't know, of people doing exactly the same thing. Sitting in their bedroom, having a guest, having a discussion on whatever topic they want. This used to be exclusively our trade, our job. Now you get into everywhere. Everybody has a studio in their own room, whether as sophisticated as yours or less sophisticated. But at the end of the day, what they're doing is almost similar to what you're doing, particularly from a layman's perspective, from ordinary citizens. It's just somebody with a microphone speaking, broadcasting. I think this really is the biggest changes we have and the biggest challenge for journalists everywhere, not only in Africa. The appearance of the disruptive technologies, the digital platforms, social media, which have taken part of what we're exclusively doing and imparted it to almost every single. I think that's one thing. The other thing is also the changing political landscape. And it's not only in our countries. Let's see what's happening. Let us see at what's happening in the USA right now. But in other countries, people have been experiencing where you have polarized citizens, where it becomes almost difficult to work on facts. We know journalists have always been working on facts, because the difference between what you would broadcast and what you would not broadcast is, okay, I believe this is true, I believe this is factual, I have evidence for this, I can broadcast it. Now, almost everywhere, people, including people in high-ranking position, government officers, almost everywhere, broadcast news that are not factual, but they use it for propaganda purposes, for any other purpose, that's also, I think, a key change in the last decade. Why people are having all this discussion around the information integrity, all this discussion around disinformation, because it used to be, what used to happen is, you may have your own opinions and project them, but now people create supposed facts and share them as facts. It's not my opinion. It's not me, Tijansi, saying I'm not happy, which is an opinion, or I'm happy, which is an opinion. It's me, Tijansi, trying to tell you this world that you think is white is not white. I think those are the two main changes that we are seeing: the perception of fact, the understanding of facts, combined with the appearance, the emergence of the disruptive technologies, and they're really it's creating a lot of harm for us, for journalists all over the globe.
So I love that you said technology has come in, but then you said a keyword which I love: destructive. So there was a time when to go out as a radio journalist, you needed like a big box, microphone, the recorders, the mixer, and all that. Today, you can actually just do that with a portable recording device that is well amplified and will give that good quality as if you went with a whole outside broadcast equipment. As camera people today, videographer, instead of having that big VHS or DHS machine, with a little camcorder with micro SIM card in it, you can record and even stream live. So it has been simplified, but then it came with dangers too of misinformation and disinformation. Thank you, Mr. Tijansi. We'll come to you briefly on that. Augustine Coley, I know you have questions to ask, but please let me introduce Dominique Lotzi, Editor-in-Chief, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. He's just joined. Good morning, Dominic, and good to have you join us. Dominic, are you there?
Hello, good morning.
Well, thank you, Dominic, and good to have you join us all the way from Accra. How are you doing today? How is Accra, and how are journalists celebrating this great day?
Accra is fine. Ghana is well. Journalists have, in Ghana, the celebration was largely done yesterday because the Ghana Journalists Association, with its partners, decided to organize the event on Friday to commemorate the day because of the nature in which the event was organized. It was an evening program, and we decided to do it a day before the main day. So journalists were elated, were happy that a day like this has come again, even though it's an every year event. They are happy that we are having it again to once again reminiscence or reflect on the work we have been doing as journalists, the watchdog of society. So they are elated, they are happy. Some are not happy because there have been issues relating to attacks. There have been issues relating to misinformation. So it's a mixed bag, even though generally they are happy that we are having an event to reflect on happenings in journalism in Ghana.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dominic. We'll be talking a lot more on that. At least we know we have Mr. Tijansi here, and we also have you online. And Augustine, who do we have joining us too?
Well, I'm El Sahel Nasrat, president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalism. Can we hear from you? How are you doing, sir? And welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on this program today.
Okay, so you just listened to Mr. C also explaining about the evolution of the media, especially within the last 2 decades. Would you mind giving an understanding about what the media is like in Sierra Leone within the last 2 decades, of which Mr. C has spoken about?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let me just give my own views on the evolution of the media generally, what has changed, essentially. I think the fundamental thing for me, the most important thing that has changed is that it's now difficult to define who is a journalist. That's one of the biggest evolutions that have taken place. The other one is that our fundamental rules, remember, the legacy media, traditional media, our fundamental rules was to set the agenda. We are the gatekeepers of information, and so these two key roles have been taken away from us because of the development or the evolution of the media in terms of technological advancement and so on. And so now you see that in terms of setting the agenda, we don't. That is not our exclusive role anymore. Anybody can now set the agenda for what people debate on or talk on the digital space. And in terms of gatekeeping also, we no longer gatekeep anymore. That is a function that's taken out, that has been taken away from us. And now the reach is so enormous. It's so enormous. With just a finger and press send, you are reaching as many millions and millions of people with just a finger, just pressing the send button. And in terms of feedback we used to have when I was working in the print media decades ago, you see that people have to write letters to the editor, and it depends on the editor to publish those letters. Those are feedback. But now feedback is instantaneous, whether it's newspaper, whether it's online radio, whether it's TV, it's instant. People get their feedback on the programs, they follow the programs and give you the feedback instantly. So those are the fundamental changes that have taken place in terms of the evolution of the media that I think we need to pay attention to. In terms of setting the agenda, we don't have that right anymore. In terms of the gatekeeping function, we don't control that anymore. In terms of the reach, is becoming wider and wider, and this also sets the tone or the platform when you talk about disinformation and misinformation and fake news spreading. It's very easy, and so the audience is in a very vulnerable position to be able to understand or appreciate the role of the real journalist, the actual journalist in the business of gathering and putting together news and disseminating them. That is a difficult point. So for me, those are the key things that have changed for me, that are fundamental to the role of the legacy media.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Said Ahmed Nasrallah, President of the Sierra Leone Journalists Association, SLAJ. We are very happy that you are all online, and at least we understand that the base for discussion going on is actually right, because you are all saying what Mr. Tijansi has echoed. And believe me, by the end of the discussion, we would know that still, with advent of technology or AI, which is the theme of this year's event, there is still a way out of it, which will mean a more commitment, passion to the job, and of course, like Mr. Tijansi will say, and he is going to say it loud and clear at the end of this show, that investigative journalism, fact-finding are some of the ways that we can see gain foothold on journalism and make sure that journalism is done right, the rules and ethics respected. But Augustine, what do we have next?
Yes, so coming up next, in a publication by Reporters Without Borders titled 2024 Roundup, Journalists Killed, Detained, Held, Hostage and Missing, it shows a worrying threat in the media space, with at least 550 journalists globally detained behind bars or imprisoned. Additionally, nearly 100 journalists went missing in 34 countries worldwide, inclusive of them in Burkina Faso. The West African Reporters Without Borders organization highlights the Sahel region, encompassing Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad, as countries experiencing a troubling increase in violence against journalists between 2024 and 2025. During this period, at least 5 journalists were killed while performing their duties, and 5 others remain missing, likely abducted by armed groups operating in these areas. The situation, according to RSF, is particularly dire in Mali and Chad, where since November 2023, and underscores the escalating security challenges journalists face amid ongoing extremist violence and political instability in the region. Sankule Janko has this report detailed.
In sub-Saharan Africa, press freedom is experiencing a worrying decline according to RSF. While Eritrea, 180th, retained its position as the worst-ranking country in the index, similar patterns appeared in other conflict zones such as Burkina Faso, Guinea and Mali. Sadibou Marong is head of RSF for Sub-Saharan Africa.
The situation in the Sahel, for example, in Burkina Faso, we have had the closure, the arrest of a lot of people. The arrest has been impacted journalists being conscripted to the army and others also having forced to flee. We also have seen how regulatory bodies, they have been used against journalism, putting pressure on that. For example, in Guinea, there have been nearly 1,000 jobs cut in the widest major sector because of the decision of the minister to ban main media, for example.
The economic score deteriorated in 80% of the region's countries.
We have realized in this year, and on something which is quite problematic. It is how economic pressures have been put on journalism and the major sectors in general. The economic indicator is the one which has been falling for 7 points in comparison to 2024 to 2023. That has sparked a lot of drama in media pressure in terms of also journalism. This pressure, it has been also a way for many countries and many authoritarian countries, to put emphasis on that strategy on how to create more and more problems to journalists.
The hyper-concentration of media ownership in the hands of political figures or business elite without safeguards for editorial independence remains a recurring problem, according to Marong.
Ownership of the media is something which has been crucial in many countries, for example, where media has been concentrated among, for example, political actors, among also groups, businessmen, and among also those kind of people. And that has been problematic in countries like, for example, Nigeria. We have seen more or less that. That has been also impacting the independence of journalists.
In contrast, Senegal, 74th, moved up to 20 places as its authorities launch economic reform initiatives which still need to be implemented and carried out in consultative manner, RSF says. For over 10 years, the index results have warned of a worldwide decline in press freedom. In 2025, a new low point emerged. The average score of all assessed countries fell below 55 points, falling into the category of a difficult situation. For the first time in the history of the index, the conditions for practicing journalism are difficult or very serious in over half of the world's countries and satisfactory in fewer than 1 in 4.
Sankule Janko there with that report detailing a publication by Reporters Without Borders titled 2024 Roundup Journalists Killed, Detained, Held Hostage and Missing.
Thank you, Augustine. As a reminder, this is a special broadcast of WADR's Governance and Democracy Program, Citizens Hour, commemorating the 2025 World Press Freedom Day. And once again, we acknowledge you all online, especially our guest, Dominic Lodzi of Ghana, Journalists Association, Ahmed Sahid Nasrallah, President, Australian Association of Journalists, and of course, our partner radios from across the Sun region, and to you also just participating. We see you all online. Dr. Mohammed Usman. Names are there. Those I don't get to mention, forgive me, but we appreciate you for joining us.
Yes. With that being said, let's get back to you, Mr. C. We would like you to give us a recap of press freedom, especially the Central Sahel region. What have you observed and what have you to say?
Well, I think with the report we just heard, people have a sense of what's going on. We should say it is extremely difficult, and including in countries where people would not think it is. If you say Burkina Faso with journalists being abducted, I don't know if we can use another name, or being forced to join the military ranks, or just disappearing, Mali journalists disappearing or not being able to work freely. I think we have at least 4 military regimes in this country. We heard the situation in Guinea in the report.
Exactly.
So I think that's something that everybody knows, that everybody witnesses. But beyond that, you have also countries where you would think everything is going fine. Take a country like Senegal. I think the RSF report highlighted the fact that I mean, even though you don't have the same situation with journalists being repressed or disappearing or being killed or being arrested, even though some have been arrested, one government also use political ways, use fiscal pressure, tax pressure, legal pressure to, like in Senegal right now, we have about 381, I may be wrong with the number, but let's say more than 300 media houses. That is more than 60% of the media that existed before this government came, which are not allowed to operate anymore.
Sir, but if I may come in, what the government said was that they are being closed, technically speaking, because of non-compliance to media code.
Absolutely, but the mere fact that you have, I don't know if you know a media house like La Maison des Reporters, with our colleague Moussa Ngom, award-winning journalist. Would you say that this is not a good media house, or this one is not credible? I think, yes, technically, that's why I say fiscal, because some others are being asked, okay, pay your taxes. I think the government use whatever they can everywhere in the world to try and repress the media. I think the RSF report mentioned the issue of media viability. Media are being made fragile. Of course, part of it is management issues, the business models, but part of it also comes from government trying to repress media that they think are not in their favor.
Can I ask you this question about regulation, media regulation? Would you say that some of these media regulations are harsh on the media? They create the space for the media to be suppressed?
I think media regulation does not mean media censorship. It means trying to find ways and mechanism to arbitrate. How can we do that West Africa democracy can broadcast, but when they go beyond what they're supposed to do, or when they do not follow the rules, we tell them, hey guys, stop, this you are not supposed to do. I mean, some sort of sanction can help. But we cannot stifle the media and jeopardize its existence. I think that's what's not acceptable. Regulation, I think every media professional wants regulation. Every media professional wants the sector to be sanitized, to use a word that people like in Senegal. But I don't think we want censorship. People want journalists to be able to work freely in a media house of their choice.
And I would even like to add to what you just said, sir. In the Central Sahel today, as we see it, especially in Burkina Faso, Niger, and the so-called democratic state, Benin and Togo, all broadcast content today are being approved by the government, the presidency, through the Ministry of Information and Communications, or is it HAC, the High Authority for Communication? But let's open the mic now to Dominic Lotzi of Ghana. You are the editor-in-chief of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, meaning that, I mean, the government owns and operates to a certain extent the entity where you work. Is it more of regulations or censorship for you?
It's a mixture of the two in some instances. But in most cases,
Yes, Dominic, are you there?
Whatever you publish, whatever you broadcast should be in good taste. And so if you are able to do that and do it well, then you are operating within the ambit of self-censorship. There are certain things culturally you shouldn't do. There are certain things economically, politically, socially you shouldn't do that would, for instance, create conflict. You should be mindful of that. So if within your own organization, for example, at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, there are instances that we decide that if there are chieftaincy issues that are boiling, you don't go in there to muddy the water. So that is a form of self-censorship where you create your own environment where you operate and you open society, for the government to now come in and say, we are censoring you. So that is the angle. In most cases, the Ghana Journalists Association has been championing, that you observe the ethics of the profession. If you're able to do that, you don't need any other regulation. Even though the regulations are there, when you fall under that, you're able to maneuver those areas, you don't have any issue with anybody. We don't have serious issues of censorship in Ghana. Even in government-owned media houses, the Constitution guarantees or gives editorial independence to the editors. And so you are able to operate within your own environment. But like I said, there are instances where somebody will call and say things that in a secret or clandestine way, you realize that they are trying to censor you.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it might not be open, because when it is open, they will receive public backlash, or the Ghana Journalists Association, for that matter, maybe the National Media Commission will not be happy about that. So there is that form of subtle censorship in there, where people, but that one, because government has spokespersons and government communication machinery, so they reach out to the editors in ways that you will not, even though you will see it as being, they are dictating to you, but they do it in a way that it doesn't become so obvious. That is why in the beginning I said that we always encourage the media houses to have their own self-censorship, where the nuances surrounding our society reflect in whatever they publish, so it doesn't become a situation where the government will come in to censor. We've had instances where some radio stations publish or broadcast stories that are distasteful, especially in the northern part of the country, where we some region we call the Upper East region, where there is some level of conflict there. So a radio station broadcasts in a way that the government realized that what they are doing would aggravate the conflict. So in that instance, there have been cases where a radio station was shut down. And even that, the Ghana Journalists Association came in and intervened for that to be restored. So we have such instances where things of this nature happen. But if we, the practitioners, practice based on our ethics, we will not have a lot of regulations, even though the regulations are there, but they become redundant if we know that what we are doing it in the interest of the country, and we are not doing it to tarnish other politicians or tarnish any other person's image. When we do it rightly, we fall within what is good for society.
Well, thank you very much, Dominic. I'm very sure we'll come back to you, and I mean, you have more to say. We have our participants online. They also want to follow and ask a few questions. But one thing that Ghana suffers from, we do have a sound from that, is the difficulty of access to information, attack and harassment of journalists, and simply because they are chasing the government to ask for accountability, transparency, and maybe advocating for the respect of rule of law and respect for human rights. But we'll come back to you, Dominic, for that. Right now, let's go to Sierra Leone for us to have more from Said, especially regarding harassment of journalists and the issue of media ownership, which is a critical factor in Sierra Leone that technically hinders objective and balanced reporting. Said.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I come from a school of thought that believes that journalists are not above the law. The media, they are not above the law. If there are regulations, they have to obey the regulations. And I also believe in professionalism and ethical practice. So that is, since I came in as president, those are the things that I've prioritized to ensure that media professionals do not hide behind politics to do their work. And governments everywhere they always try to empower themselves and with legislations to protect their legitimacy because they are elected. They are elected by the people and they have legitimacy to run the affairs of government for a period and determined by their constitution. And they have legislations. And media, for associations like us, we have the Code of Ethics. And for the regulatory body, which is the Independent Media Commission, they have regulations for electronic and print media. And so those are statutory, that is a statutory body, and they have those regulations, and they are the ones registering the media and also regulating them in a way. And so last week we had a meeting with the National Revenue Authority. The authority has found out that working with NATCA, the National Telecommunications Company, they have about 180 radio stations and TV stations together that have not paid their licenses for the year 2025. And if you go back to 5 years back, many have not paid. So you see, and you're operating a radio station, a platform that can be used by anybody to cause trouble or to put out information that is not true, that is manipulative and cause unrest in certain areas. And so that is a crime in itself. And the law says that for you to practice, you have to have a license. So when we got wind of this, we rushed immediately to engage the NRA and to see how we can handle this without. And because when you clamp down on the media like this, for example, if the NRA goes out now and say, we're going to close all those media houses, then you begin to hear about press freedom. Government has clamped down on press freedom. But the underlying issue is that the people operating this media, or the media owners of this, the owners of these media houses, are not complying with the regulatory requirements, the statutory obligations. Pay your license fee every year, and then your license is renewed. So in terms of harassment, we don't have cases like that that are severe, like I've heard from the report from the RSF for other countries. We don't have any journalists in jail or in detention. We don't have journalists that are being surveillance on a daily basis by government for the work that they do. We don't have journalists that have disappeared because of the work that they do. We don't have journalists that have been physically assaulted by state officials. But again, the threats are there. They come in different fashion, and it's happening mainly on social media and digital platforms, and it comes from the political supporters and those who have vested interest. The moment you are a critical journalist and you put out information on social media or on your platform, then the people who support those interests that you are trying to hold to account will come after you, and they will harass you, they will threaten you. So that is the form of harassment that we have now. But we have moved further to ensure that we have engagement and dialogue with the main perpetrators over the years before the repeal of the criminal libel law in 2020. Every week, the umbrella body will be at the CID, the Criminal Investigations Department, to bail journalists. Because every time they publish something that is critical against a politician or against a public official or against a corporate official, they are invited to the CID. And we have to be there to ensure that they are released on bail. But since the repeal, we have not had that has drastically reduced. We don't have any journalists now that have been, they just invite you to teach on the course of what you publish. Because now what we have, we ensure that we have a dialogue for the first time in the history over 50 years since SLAG was formed. And the media relationship with the police or the security forces is a cat and mouse one. With the government, it's also a cat and mouse. But we changed that. We said, no, government is a key player in everything that you do. If you want to push for media development, you want to push for reforms in legislation, government is a partner. And so what we did was to push to ourselves in a way that government doesn't see us as an opposition party or as we are trying to bring them down. We have mutual respect, and we are able to hold them to account in a responsible manner. And so we engage with dialogue. And the same we did with the police. And so for years, the police have always been assaulting journalists physically and destroying their equipment. But when we said, okay, let's change this now. We don't have to put press releases and condemn them and ask for and call for investigations that will never end. So we just say we are investigating and there is no report. Nobody is held accountable. The impunity continues. And so we say, okay, let's go to the table. So for the first time under the Office of National Security, we engage the police on the table, all the heads of the security forces, the IG of the police, the Chief of Defense Staff, the Sierra Leone Correctional Center Director, came on the table. And we said, okay, we have to ensure that we understand ourselves, we understand the role you are playing, we understand the role that journalists are playing, and we support each other in those roles, and we train each other to understand those roles, and ensure that whatever there is a situation where we all meet, because we are all promoting democracy. We are all here providing security for us and for the citizens. We are providing information for the public about what you are doing.
Okay,
so respect our role, we also respect the rule and support us to achieve those rules. So I think the conversation should be how we change the approach. We have been doing this for more than 50 years. Just putting out press releases, condemning government action against journalists, harassment of journalists, without engaging.
Very well said.
I think the way to go is to engage.
Okay.
Is to engage and dialogue and come to the table and put your case, and you meet at a point.
Thank you, Said.
You would also be able to hold government to account in a responsible manner. That's what we believe in. And that's why we are scoring success here.
Thank you very much, Said, President of the Sierra Leone Journalists Association /, and just like GEG, that is the Ghana Association of Journalists. I think a bit of recap I got here is that there is efforts have been done in the area of training and mentorship, but there's more that needs to be done. Of course, the issue of finance and budget came up. Rules and regulation, respect for rules and regulation guiding journalists and journalism, and of course media practitioners need to be reinforced. Access to information, yes, attack on journalists should be corrected. There should also be a change in the narrative regarding political journalism. I heard that it came from Ghana in particular. Social media trend taking a toll on professionalism. That was the opening statement by Mr. Tijansi here in the studio. There's also the issue of media ownership, means of information, and disinformation. Well, there's little to be heard about welfare and remuneration, which is something journalists suffer from, Mr. Tijansi, even in Senegal. But just before we continue this discussion, let's go to Nigeria, where we have Mr. Dauda Chiroma. He is the station manager of Albarka Radio, one of WADR's partner station. Good morning, good afternoon, really, from Dakar, and good to have you join us, Mr. Dauda. Dauda Chiroma, can you hear me? Well, we'll come back to you later. How about we have Usman Marong, station manager, Numi FM, join us. Good afternoon. Can you hear me, Mr. Osman? Well, while we wait for them to connect, we must move quickly to address the topic of today, which is the impact of AI on journalism. But Augustine, do we have a report from Nigeria?
Sure, we have a report from Nigeria. So the special broadcast of Citizens Hour here in West Africa Democracy Radio, commemorating the World Press Freedom Day. We now move to Nigeria. Despite being a giant and a pathfinder in many fields, including information, Nigeria finds itself grappling with worsening media landscape. According to RSF's latest report, the country slipped 10 places on the 2025 World Press Freedom Index, now ranking 122nd place. The rating only amplified the growing concerns over rising censorship, political interference, and the targeting of investigative journalists. WADR's Abuja correspondent Usma Umar filed this report.
Nigeria's press used to be feared by the powerful. Now, it's fighting for survival. According to Reporters Without Borders, the country has become one of the most dangerous places in West Africa to be a journalist. Its 2025 report ranks Nigeria 122nd globally, a 10-place drop. At the heart of this slide is one critical issue: ownership. RSF says Nigeria's media is increasingly controlled by a small elite, powerful private interests tied to government and politics. That means many newsrooms are no longer truly independent. But it's not just who owns the media, it's how those in power control it. Government interference, RSF says, runs deep, from harassing reporters to shutting down media outlets, even during elections. 2 private transmitters in the southeastern region of Nigeria were destroyed in 2023. No official explanation was given. Enoch Stephen, a correspondent with a national TV station in Nigeria, shares a bitter experience as he answers the question, Is the press in Nigeria free?
Well, for me, in Nigeria, I'd say the press is not totally free because there are a lot of issues, when it comes to reporting the truth, right? So as a journalist, sometimes when you want to report the truth, you might be, attacked.
Enoch's experience is shared by many journalists in Nigeria. Over 30 journalists were assaulted or detained in August 2024 alone, most while covering protests. But what should the relationship between journalists and security agencies be like? Angela Uzoma is the country director, Advocates Sans Frontières, France.
We want these two actors to see themselves as collaborators in promoting democracy, free speech in the country, and we want the law enforcement agents to see their role as essentially protecting lives and property as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, and this includes the lives and property of journalists.
Apparently, this is not the case, according to Busola Abjibola, media manager at the Center for Journalism in Innovation and Development.
The security agencies who on our data, if you go on the Person Attack Tracker, the CGID Person Attack Tracker, you will find that the most assailants of journalists are the security agencies. So something has to give. There has to be that conversation, there has to be that sensitization for the security agencies to come to the awareness that, okay, so these people are doing their job. And then in doing that job, if there has to be any point of friction, we must ensure that the dignity of the journalist is maintained.
In a climate of impunity, attacks go unpunished, even when the perpetrators are known. The African Media Development Foundation reports that Nigeria had the highest number of press freedom violations in Africa in 2023, with cases peaking during the elections and protests. Mohammed Idris is Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation.
This administration believes that a free and responsible press is essential for good governance, transparency, and national development. Let me emphasize that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a foremost Democrat, is fully committed to protecting the constitutionally guaranteed rights of all Nigerians.
But for many on the front lines, the reality feels far from ideal. Journalism in Nigeria is under pressure from power, from poverty, and from politics. But it's not down yet. As the world marks Press Freedom Day, Nigeria faces a critical choice: defend the space for truth or risk losing it entirely.
WADR World's Abuja correspondent Usma Umar there with that report.
And many thanks to you, our esteemed listeners, for tuning in and being a part of the special production. And of course, our partner radio stations across the sub-region and beyond. Thank you all. And those of you streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and from our website, WADR.org, we appreciate you. And let's bring on board Dauda Chiroma, station manager of Albaraka Radio, Bauchi, Nigeria, to add a bit on what Usman just reported. Good afternoon, Mr. Dauda. Dauda, are you there? Okay, we don't have him. How about Mr. Marong from the Gambia, station manager, Numi FM?
Yes, good morning.
Very well. Good afternoon, Mr. Osman. We can hear you. Please, you have the floor briefly.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you and to the participants. My name is Usman Emarong, like you said, station manager, Numi FM radio station. I want to buttress on the issue of media ownership and authorities, or let's say government clamping down on the media just because of one thing, that is regulation fees or renewal of license, here we call it. It's just like the same to the previous speaker that spoke about their authorities clamping down on some of the media organizations and closing them down. The same thing applies to the Gambia. Months back, our authorities, we call them PURA, Public Utility Authority here in the Gambia. Back in few months' time, they also closed some media organization, or let me say media houses, on the same clause, that is not adhering to media regulations or license being given to them to backed by their broadcasting condition. 5 media organizations were shut down. And in fact, this at one time affected me. I didn't pay my media regulations on time, but when they come up with a press release and press conference, giving some media organizations a grazing time to go and, do one or two things. That was the time I rose, do these things. But to me, I want to believe authorities should not close media houses just because they have not paid their. It's true, it's business, and also if you open a media house, you should pay your license, your regulations fee. But then also our government should understand that media business nowadays, with the invent of these social media content creators, media is not doing that much when it comes to this thing, how to call it, financial issues. Media in the Gambia here, I will say majority of the media organizations or media houses are struggling because money is not forthcoming. And I believe governments all over the world should give radio stations, not only radio stations, but media houses, this includes newspapers, grazing time to settle their areas or their licensing required fees. By giving them grazing period for them to settle whatsoever they have to settle, would add value to government. Because remember, they are taxpayers. Shutting them down is not the issue. You shut them down, they are not going to pay anymore. And before they settle down, you are losing while they are also losing. So that's my belief. You shutting them down, meaning you are losing because they are taxpayers. And also the government also is losing their media houses there. And at the end of the day, here in the Gambia, whereby you have a lot of pollutions and stuff, maybe their microphones might be affected, the transmitter might be affected, and transmitters are not gain here. If you need a transmitter, you need to order it. And the least order a transmitter is nothing less than 250 up to 300,000.
Okay, then.
Let's say the requirement for licensing fee is not even up to 100,000. So if you allow me to lose a transmitter that worth 200 to 300,000, you are not doing justice to me.
Thank you very much, Usman Maron, station manager, Nuimi FM, and he has just spoken to some of the issues raised by previous speakers since the program commenced, which is just pleading or urging with the authorities to rethink approaches when it comes to what is it called now, media censorship or clamp down media, like we've seen in Senegal, over 200 plus media stations being closed because of non-compliance to media codes. But like our in-house guest said, there are better ways to really go about this.
Yes, you're right. And now let's focus on the global theme for this year's World Press Freedom Day, which is the impact of artificial intelligence on press freedom and the media. And this is coming at a time when the prevalence of artificial intelligence in the media is a cardinal point of discussion. And we'll ask you, Mr. C, what do you make of this theme and how important it is to address?
Well, I think AI is just the continuation of what we have been witnessing. I mentioned the disruptive technologies. I think it's just, I cannot say it's a culmination because probably there will be something coming up next in that domain. It's just a continuation of these technologies disrupting the media ecosystem. Now it comes with a certain number of issues, a certain number of challenges. One is ethical, because the line between factual information and information created by artificial intelligence is being blurred. So ethical responsibility issues, moral issues. It comes with threats to the job because it makes a lot of tasks much easier. Yes, it's very much welcome. It's very much welcome, but maybe what 3 people could do or 4 people could do, imagine transcribing, I don't know, a 2-hour interview.
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
Speech
or
to text,
translating.
translators, tracking sound sources.
Exactly. But still, it's an opportunity and a threat there. So you have those issues, and then once again, the ultimate point is that the last point, the issue of information integrity, because when we're talking about also disinformation, AI plays a big role. I'm sure now you've all heard or you've all seen media sound bites or small video clips that are made by artificial intelligence.
Can I give an example, sir?
Of course, of
the
course.
Burkinabe transitional president.
Exactly.
There was a sound of him speaking perfect fluent English, and one was Russian.
Exactly.
And do you imagine?
So how do you make it blurs literally the frontiers between the reality and what is made up? With fiction, are we in a world where fiction will dominate? Are we in a world where facts remains still relevant? Because remember, as journalists, we work on facts. Facts are our, we can say, our raw material. So if this is being corrupted in one way or the other, it's a big issue. It's a very big issue. And then you have those who are doing things on purpose, knowing that what I'm doing is wrong, but they still do it because they have a clear purpose. They have a clear understanding of what they want to do. And people use it to destabilize governments, to create mistrust against the journalists, against the media.
Are we seeing that already?
Of course. Because people can use your own image and put a video clip of you in this studio with WADR and everything and make you say things that you have never said. It's happening. We've seen, there has been a fact check that we have done where the journalists, they used a local journalist, they used a local medical doctor, but the medicine they were promoting or the ideas they were discussing, everything was fake. Everything was fake. But the image is real. The image of the journalist, it's a journalist who exists. The medical doctor is a medical doctor who exists. But what they were saying came from the imagination of somebody trying to sell a product.
And allow me to recall, sir, I know you own and manage this platform of fact-checking. How many of these have you reported or documented?
Well, you can't document them all, you can't report them all, you can't debunk them all, because there are so many. So what we do is mostly to say, okay, what can we handle? What can we humanly handle? So, and across the globe, you are having that with the advent of what those people working in that field call the deep fakes, totally constructed videos coming from, it's not just, this is an avatar of somebody. This is Tijansi speaking. Somebody can use my image speaking in this studio and make me say things that are totally opposite what I'm saying.
However, Mr. C, what's the possibility of also using the very AI to also detect fake news, also detect the disinformation?
Well, technology is being used. Technology is being used. I know there are some projects where people are trying to use it to support fact-checking. I'm not saying it's all wrong. It comes with some opportunities, but the harm it's causing, if it comes into some people's hands, is so threatening that we need to interrogate ourselves. We need to have a deep thinking. I don't think AI is not going to stop. It's not because we're having these discussions that it's going to stop. So the issue is now, how are we going to adapt it, to use it, and when also using it, when also adapting it, how do we do to safeguard what is the soul of the job? Because the soul of this job is also creativity. It's also some sort of integrity in the information we report. Okay. I think because my fear is we come to a point where the citizens would say, whatever they get, people would start questioning, oh, is it really Tijan speaking? Is it really Abdullah speaking? I think that's a main concern.
And yes, again, in response to what you just stated earlier, that the AI is making the job easy as well for the positive side of journalism. But then, would you also say or agree that it creates laziness for journalism, in the fact that maybe the time it will take to edit, like you said, the time will take to write, and in a twinkle of an eye, you have the story prepared? It's a form of laziness for the journalist.
Well, I think that laziness should not be there. I think professional journalists would not go that way. I think if I can use it to make my work easier, fantastic.
Smart
I would
working.
take it. Exactly. It helps. I mean, let's say those who promote AI would tell you it's just an assistant. It cannot replace your work. The responsibility. One of the those working on the ethical part, on the charts and codes of conduct when using AI would tell you the responsibility will still remain. You cannot accuse the AI of having made an error if you are using it to do your work. So the responsibility is yours. So laziness cannot come in. Let's just use it as we used to use our microphone, or I don't know, our editing platforms on a computer. Let's use it as a tool. It can be helpful, and let's make sure when you use it, particularly in some instances, that there's a certain level of transparency whereby the citizens can understand, okay, here we have used AI. Let's say some people use it for TV images, for video footage. I think it's very important to say people that this image has been created by AI, that this voice has been changed by AI, and things like that.
Well, to you online, our special guest, Said and Dominic from Ghana, I will come to you shortly, but I have one question for in-studio guest, Mr. C. You talked about, AI not being able to replace people, but in the labor market today globally, there is fear that if AI stays longer, it will replace people. And just yesterday, I think this will be the first in West Africa, Nigeria's second largest private TV. They launched a platform where they have AI TV anchors.
Yeah.
Just yesterday.
Yeah. But I think this is evolution. Still, I think, I don't know what's going to happen. It's now extremely difficult to predict what's going to happen. But going in the field, doing a report, doing it in a creative manner, I think, yes, AI can help, can support. But definitely, if there's an accident outside this building where we are broadcasting from, I think you would still need to send somebody there to see. If you want to conduct a perfect interview, this show we are having here, I think if you want it to be real, you cannot say, okay, Tijansi, send your AI to come and respond to your questions. You will still have me in the studio. You will still have to face me here. So, yeah, let's have a balance of what's possible, where it can help, let's use it, of course. Let's make that use transparent. When it's AI anchoring a TV program, let's tell people it's an AI. It's not a human being. You cannot take my image and say, this is Tijansi while Tijansi is sleeping. I think that's the issue. Tell to your listeners, this is an AI anchoring this program, and let's look at the reaction.
Okay then.
Yes, that's right. There are more to talk about, but let's hear from Dominic there in Ghana. We would like to know how the AI is being used there by journalists in Ghana.
Dominic, are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity once again. As we are all aware, technology sets the pace in this world. And so if you're in a world where technology is always evolving, changing, if you don't adapt, all you do is that you will die. So in journalism, you've realized that as we speak, there are a lot of issues relating to our newspaper publications and all that, because technology is moving, people's tastes are changing, and so with the advent of AI, every sector is picking things from this technology. And so in Ghana, a lot of people or journalists are gradually embracing AI. Just that there are advantages and disadvantages just with this technology that has come to our profession. But I must say that in Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, the use of AI isn't that massive because a lot of state and private information is not available online, like in other continents. Most ministries, agencies, and departments still have their information in the analog system, in their offices and their shelves and all that. So AI, because it's just internet linked technology, if the information is not there, you don't get it. You won't get, if you ask the AI, it might give you something that is not even related to your country. So AI cannot entirely replace journalism, and it is not replacing journalism in Ghana, because you have to still do the real journalism, real life storytelling or story gathering. You have to still do that, because like the earlier speaker said, if there is an accident, if there is a fire somewhere, AI cannot tell you that a refinery is on fire. And so you should, unless it is published there for you to pick it. But if you want to be the first to break the news, you won't get that on the internet using AI.
Thank you.
And journalists in Ghana are leveraging or taking advantage is the fact that it helps in doing a lot of research.
Okay. Thank you, Dominic. Let's know
if you are in Accra or
yes. We will get back to you, Dominic. We'll get back to you, Dominic. Thank you. Let's hear from Sai in Sierra Leone regarding the AI tools being used by journalists, and how is the Journalists Association there in Sierra Leone helping journalists to make proper use of those AI tools?
Thank you very much. But I think for us here, AI is still at its infancy stage. It's slowly getting into the newsroom. I've seen firsthand how conversations around AI are slowly entering into our newsrooms. And as managing director now of the Africa Young Voice Media Empire, and also of the iVerify platform, I've seen how this is happening. What we are trying to do is to see how we can begin to explore automated transcription and language tools. But we are equally cautious about their limitations and risks. I think what we need to know about AI is that what AI is passing on is cumulative human knowledge that they are passing on as their own, which of course also has some ethical issues. And so we don't need to over rely on AI if we want to excel. Like the guest that said, AI is just an assistant. For every advancement we make in technology in the area of media, there are positives and there are negatives. We just need to ensure that we maximize the positive aspect of it, and we don't have to rely on AI to do our work for us. There always has to be the human element aspect of it. So while many of our media houses here lack the infrastructure to fully deploy the tools, the awareness is growing, and this team for this World Press Freedom Day, I think it serves as a warning, both a warning and a window of opportunity for us, and reminding us that as we strive to improve media professionalism and sustainability, we must also prepare for the ethical, legal, and social implications of how we adopt AI into the work that we do. There have been concerns from journalists who have said that AI is going to redundant some of the roles that they play in the newsroom. These are concerns that are genuine. But what we are pushing for as a station is to ensure that we have more digital literacy training for our journalists so that they know exactly how to use these tools to maximize their potential in an ethical and professional way. Mm-hmm. And so there's always going to be
Said, are you still there, Said?
I think it's network.
And if you can hear us, please, there's a bit of background noise where you are. Maybe you need to readjust a bit. So, hello, Said? Yes. Yeah, there's a bit of noise. Yes, there's a bit of ambience where you are. I don't know if it's your hands free.
It's a phone call. I'm close by the beach. I'm close by the beach side. That's why I'm at the resort.
Okay, thank you very much. At least,
and this is the only area. This is the only area I'm getting network.
Yeah, but we really appreciate the fact that you took time out to really make sure that you go to a place that you can actually be able to just link up and share this moment with us. We really appreciate. And from what he has said, he actually also echoed or reiterated an earlier statement by you saying the same thing the Ghana Dominic did. Yep. That AI is only an assistant and can never replace the work a true journalist does. But let me go back to you, Dominic, if you can hear me. We don't have much time left. At least we will now need to be quick on how we respond to questions. Dominic, let me really ask, what is the Ghana Journalists Association doing in terms of training journalists regarding the use of AI tools? At least for Said, yes. He did say that they've started training and more education and awareness on the use and dangers of AI tools, even though there are the positives. What is GJA doing?
Yes, so last year, for instance, during our 75th anniversary, what we did was to go around the country to educate the journalists. We brought in experts who are into the technology space, mm-hmm. because this is a new thing and most journalists do not really have a lot of knowledge on this topic. So we engaged a number of technology experts who are into this software app development, who understand this terrain very well. And they took a lot of journalists through AI and its impact on journalism and even the entire society or other sectors of our society. And so the GJA, the Ghana Journalists Association, has been raising funds to educate journalists across the country relating to AI use, its pros and cons, what they can use it to do and what they cannot use it to do. And that has been happening. And this year, we are also planning to do similar training where we'll give our journalists the skills and tools and the insight to be able to leverage AI for their work. AI helps specifically in research and then in analysis for journalists to have in-depth reports on specific topics. They can rely on research using AI, and AI also increases efficiency and accuracy when it comes to writing on certain topics that the information is already out there on the internet. So the Ghana Journalists Association believes that digital media literacy is very key. Without it, we'll still have our traditional media people operating in the field that will not give us good results. So we've been making all the efforts to get our journalists trained. Apart from the Ghana Journalists Association, some other groupings have also been helping. Even individual media houses do organize trainings for their staffs to ensure that they are abreast with the AI revolution, and also to help them to use apps, AI apps that will improve upon their reporting. So that is being done in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Dominic Lonzi. Once again, Mr. Tijansi, digital literacy. So it's about the same thing everybody's saying.
Yes, just similar in those countries. But let's now find a way forward. What's the way forward towards the impact of this AI on journalism? Is it investigative journalism or more facts findings?
Well, I'm not sure. As I said, just let's consider it as a tool. Maybe something very important we need to remember or to highlight is when you are doing journalism, you should not be afraid of technology. Let's remember this job, even print media that we're thinking is, I don't know, traditional or history or prehistory, is based on technology. You have to print it, it's technology. Radio that we think is legacy media, is traditional media, is technology. TV is technology. So as we move, the digital platforms is technology. AI is technology. So for me, what's important as reporters, as journalists, what's important to know is to understand what is at stake in it, what are the issues that are posed, that we understand it. We have a technology, how do we use it? What are the challenges that come with it? What are the threats? What are the opportunities? And let's adapt it, let's use it. Whether I'm doing fact-checking, whether I'm doing investigations, there are areas where it might be of help, I will use it. I'm doing fact-checking. There are areas like if you want to debunk some deep fakes, you have platforms where you can put your video or your image and have all the information about that image or about that video. So in a minute, it tells you this one is fake or it's not. Then perfect, you're doing fact-checking. But the context, the storytelling, you will have to do still. I think so. Let's not try and make divides. Let's just, for me, consider it is technology. It is useful to our journalism. It comes with threats. So, and let's see how to cope with it, how to use it in an optimal way, with always respecting, ethical standards, the responsibility issues, and things like that.
Well, I'm afraid this is about how far we can go on this special broadcast, special edition of Citizens Hour here on West Africa Democracy Radio. But just before we say goodbye, but never to snack bye, but not bye. Mr. Tijansi, let me allow you to say at least a minute to inspire young journalists out there, and for some of us also to motivate us to keep being professional, because it is what you do. Share some words of inspiration as the world today celebrates journalists and journalism as a profession.
Well, maybe just to remember that what we are doing is a public mission. What we are doing, whether we're in a private radio station, even owned by a politician, if you are a journalist, a true journalist, what we are doing is a public mission. So this goes with some sense of sacrifice and some sense of public service. You cannot do journalism if you do not want to serve the public. So we're serving the public. We're not serving ourselves. We're not serving our own media houses. We need loyalty to the fraternity. We need loyalty to our employers, but we need to gain the trust of the public, who are the ultimate people for which we're doing this job. I think I will end with that.
Thank you very much. Augustine, who do we have next?
Yes, let's have Sahel so that he says something about that. Sahid?
Your last words.
Your last words, please.
My last words. Okay, thank you for having me on this program this morning or this afternoon. And I think the discussion was very educative and informative. Thanks to the panel on the studio. I think my final word on AI and its impact on the media is, I think we need, as countries, we need to have a national digital strategy or policy that will include ethical use of AI, content moderation standards, and also digital literacy for both journalists and citizens as well. But like the guest said, we should not be afraid of technology. Technology is part of our work. It only enhances our work, and so we should look at technology for its opportunities rather than for its downside. Thank you very much for this program.
Great.
Thank you very much, Mr. Said Nasrallah, President of the Sierra Leone Association, Journalists Association Large. Let's go to Ghana now to join Dominic Lazo, the National Secretary of the Journalists Association, there for his last words. Dominic.
Thank you. What I would say is that journalists must still hold the ethics of the profession high. Let's embrace AI with an open mind and use it for the benefit of information and disinformation. Thank you very much.
Short and apt. Well, this will be the third time I'll go to Mr. Chiroma, the station manager of Albaraka Radio Nigeria. I hope this time you will be able to connect and we'll get to hear you. I'm sorry you've been able to follow, but we couldn't just hear you from the very start. The show is rounding up now. What are your words really now to journalists out there as the world today celebrates press freedom, especially with the theme, the impact of AI on journalism? Mr. Chiroma? Dauda Chiroma, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Right, thank you for having me do it late at the 11th hour, but I'm glad to be on the part. And since it's the final minutes of the show, just like every other person has said, I really think technology has come to stay. And journalists should not be able to use the tools that are available to them. But the destructive thing is that it is new in Nigeria, and journalists are divided into two in Nigeria, either on religious basis or ethnic basis, which they are using the tools selfishly. So I'm looking forward to an avenue where more journalists can be trained to use the AI for solution journalism to find the many problems and many compounding problems that are facing Africa, and peculiar to each zones in Africa or each countries in Africa, to really turn the narrative. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, thank you very much. Also, Mr. Dauda Chiroma, station manager of Albaraka Radio, Bauchi State, Nigeria. And thank you all for being a part of the show today, and especially to our partner radios for not only be part of this broadcast, but also relaying information in helping to reach hundreds of people out there and change the narrative regarding the use of AI. And as you've all heard from our guests in the studio today, it's about opening up to it, embrace it, use it right, and with moderation. And Augustine, any words from you as we wrap up?
Well, thank you. It has been a pleasure sitting in studio with Mr. C, and I would just love to thank you for coming. And I must admit that the institution you established, EJCOM, is bringing up some bright minds in the Senegalese landscape, media landscape, and thank you for that. The world is evolving, Abdullah.
Fast evolving.
Yes, and we must live with the existing developments that are coming on, and then we should adapt to them because they are not waiting for us. So we should just adapt to AI and use it professionally. It's been a pleasure, and again I would like to say Happy World Press Freedom Day to Mr. C and our other guests online, including all journalists around the world.
And my last word really would be that even though we're embracing AI, we should not forget the traditional the fundamental basics of journalism, which is for us to be objective and balanced in our reporting and make sure that whatever we want to dish out is fact proved, and we should always remember to be the gatekeepers and of course trackers of good governance, democracy, and also be advocates for the respect for rule of law, human rights. And while we do that, remain to stay safe. Safety is important. Without your own safety, you may not live long to tell the story. So those are the few words I have for you out there. And once again, Mr. Tijansi, many thanks for being a part of the discussion. To Dominic Lodzi, Ahmed Nasrallah, Sierra Leone, Usman Marong Numi, all the way from the Gambia, Dauda Chiruma from Nigeria, and to all of you out there, our esteemed listener, I really appreciate your time. And remember, this is a special podcast of WADR's Citizens Hour commemorating this year's World Press Freedom Day. Let's keep doing this. Good afternoon.